The phone buzzed at 3 a.m., its sharp vibration slicing through the silence. Emily's heart pounded as she grabbed it, only to see a missed call from Daniel. Her breath caught. She whispered, "Why now?" Her thumb hovered over the screen, trembling. A single message followed, glowing in the dark. "We need to talk." She stared, frozen, the weight of those words sinking into her chest. Every second stretched, her mind racing through possibilities, each one worse than the last. She remembered his promises, the way he said he'd always show up, no matter what. But here, in the quiet of her small apartment, those words felt like betrayal. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered into the silence, "Don't do this to me, Daniel." The shadows on the wall stretched long and thin, and her world collapsed with the sound of her own breaking heart. Emily sat frozen, staring at the dim light of her phone. Hours ago she had believed tonight would be different. Daniel had promised, "I'll call you before I sleep." She repeated his words silently, as if reciting them could make them true. The quiet hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in her apartment, a cruel reminder of her solitude. She whispered, "You said you'd show up." The ache in her chest deepened as she remembered how long she had waited, how often she had convinced herself that love across oceans was worth every lonely night. Yet now his absence screamed louder than any words. She curled her knees to her chest, clutching her pillow like it could shield her from the truth pressing in. The night dragged on and Emily replayed their last conversation. Daniel had laughed, saying, "You'll see, I'll surprise you soon." She had clung to those words, weaving hope out of every syllable. Now they mocked her, circling in her head. She unlocked her phone again, refreshing the screen, praying for another message. Nothing. The silence pressed down like heavy air, suffocating. Emily whispered, "Why promise if you can't keep it?" She glanced toward the rain-soaked window, each droplet a ticking reminder that he was 1,000 miles away, living a life she couldn't touch. Emily's thoughts spiraled as the hours crawled. She imagined Daniel's world, bright and buzzing, while hers shrank into silence. Her phone remained lifeless, and each minute without a message tore another piece of hope away. She thought of the times he'd sworn, "No matter the distance, I'll be there for you." Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Were those just words?" She pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window, letting the rain chill her skin. Outside, the city lights flickered faintly, indifferent to her loneliness. By dawn, Emily's body ached from waiting. The phone lay beside her, cold and silent. She closed her eyes, but the message still burned behind her eyelids. "We need to talk." Her heart twisted with fear as she imagined what he would say. Would it be the end? Or another promise she couldn't hold on to? She whispered Daniel's name into the empty room, voice barely audible. Her heart wanted to believe, but her mind whispered the truth she wasn't ready to face. The silence was no accident. Morning light spilled weakly through Emily's curtains, painting her small apartment in pale gray. She sat at the edge of her bed, phone clutched tightly, as if willing it to ring. She thought of all the nights she had stayed awake just to hear Daniel's voice. Her friends told her she was wasting herself on waiting, but she couldn't let go. She whispered, "He matters more than sleep, more than anything." Her chest ached with a longing she could neither explain nor silence. She scrolled through their old texts, tracing each word as if they were lifelines. Each "I miss you" felt like proof that their love was real, even when silence tried to erase it. Emily brewed coffee with hands that shook from exhaustion. The bitter aroma filled the kitchen, but it did little to wake her from the fog of longing. She glanced at the clock. It was 7 a.m., the time Daniel usually left for work in his city. She wondered if he thought of her at all. She whispered, "Are you even missing me?" She remembered sacrificing job offers in another town because she wanted to stay close to her family, hoping the stability would make the distance easier to bear. Now it felt like every sacrifice had been in vain. Emily's phone buzzed, but it wasn't Daniel. A message from Sophia flashed across the screen. Did he call? Emily typed slowly, "Not yet," before deleting it. She didn't want to admit the truth out loud. Sophia had warned her for months, saying, "You're holding on to someone who isn't holding back for you." Emily hated how right she sounded. Yet, her heart argued louder, whispering that love was meant to endure. She stared at her reflection in the darkened TV screen, seeing not the hopeful girl Daniel had once charmed, but someone fraying at the edges. Sophia called later that afternoon, her voice steady and concerned. "Emily, you can't keep doing this," she said. Emily forced a smile into her tone, replying, "He just needs time." But even as the words left her lips, she knew they sounded empty. Sophia's sigh lingered in her ear, heavier than silence. Emily twisted the hem of her shirt, heart pounding. She didn't want Sophia to see the truth she was denying herself. "I'll be fine," she whispered, though her voice cracked. The words were fragile, like glass about to shatter. As the day faded into evening, Emily opened her drawer and pulled out the letters Daniel had written during their first months apart. The paper was worn, edges curled from years of rereading. She traced his handwriting, whispering, "You used to mean every word." Her tears blurred the ink as she folded one gently against her chest. Memories of their first promise filled her mind. The vow that no matter the miles, they'd always show up for each other. Now, staring at the empty phone screen, she wondered if she had been the only one keeping that vow alive. Emily refreshed her inbox for the 100th time, eyes scanning for Daniel's name. Nothing. The silence stung more than words ever could. She whispered, "Why won't you answer me?" Memories of their late-night video calls flashed in her mind. His laugh, his smile, the way he promised had never let the distance change them. Yet here she was, alone, staring at empty screens. Her chest tightened as she thought of the pictures he'd posted online, smiling with friends, drinks in hand like she didn't exist. The distance felt wider than oceans now. It felt like he had already left. Later that night, Emily scrolled through Daniel's social feed, her heart pounding with each image. There he was, Daniel, laughing beside a coworker, their shoulders nearly touching. Emily's throat tightened. "Who is she?" she whispered, anger and fear mixing in her chest. She zoomed in, searching for clues, for anything that told her she was overthinking. But the smile on his face, brighter than the ones he gave her lately, cut deeper than a knife. Her hand shook as she set the phone down, pulse racing with dread. Emily called Daniel, but the line rang endlessly before dropping to voicemail. Her voice cracked as she said, "Daniel, I just need to hear you, please." She hung up, staring at the dark screen, her reflection staring back. The silence grew louder, wrapping around her like chains. She remembered the times he promised to pick up no matter what, and the betrayal of his absence burned inside her. She whispered into the still air, "Why does it feel like you're slipping away from me?" Sophia arrived unannounced the next day, concern written on her face. She hugged Emily tightly, whispering, "You can't keep letting him do this to you." Emily stiffened, pulling away. "You don't understand," she said sharply, though her eyes shimmered with tears. Sophia's gaze softened, but her words cut clear. "He isn't showing up, Emily. You deserve someone who does." The truth echoed painfully, and Emily turned away, clutching her arms as if to hold herself together. That night, Emily stood by the window, staring into the glowing city below. She whispered Daniel's name like a prayer, hoping the wind could carry it across miles. The ache in her chest grew heavier with every unanswered call, every hollow promise replayed in her mind. She pressed her forehead to the glass, whispering, "If you don't want me, just say it." The silence outside mirrored the silence on her phone. The distance between them had become more than geography. It had become the truth she feared most. Emily's phone buzzed late at night, but it wasn't Daniel. A friend from his city sent her a photo. Daniel at a restaurant, laughing with the same coworker she had seen online. Her heart froze. She zoomed in, searching desperately for an explanation. Their hands almost touched across the table, and Daniel's smile glowed in a way she hadn't seen in months. Emily whispered, "You promised me." The betrayal wrapped around her chest like steel, making it hard to breathe. She realized this wasn't just distance. It was a choice he had made, to show up for someone else instead of her. Emily scrolled back through months of messages, her stomach twisting. His excuses lined up like a puzzle she had ignored. The missed calls, the cancelled plans, the sudden silences. Each piece now fit into a cruel picture. He hadn't been too busy. He had been with her. Emily slammed her phone down, the screen cracking as it hit the floor. "Why did you lie to me?" she cried, her voice breaking in the stillness. Her body shook with anger, but the ache of betrayal cut deeper than rage. Sophia came over after Emily's frantic call. She found her sitting on the floor, broken phone in her lap. Emily whispered, "He's with someone else." Sophia knelt beside her, wrapping her arms around her trembling shoulders. "I told you he wasn't showing up for you," Sophia said softly, though her eyes brimmed with sympathy. Emily pressed her face into her friend's shoulder, muffling her sobs. The truth she had fought to deny had finally cornered her, leaving no room for hope. Emily stared blankly at the wall, her voice hoarse. "I gave up everything to believe in him," she said. She remembered the job she had declined, the nights she sacrificed sleep, the dreams she had placed on hold, all for promises that crumbled in her hands. Sophia brushed her hair back gently. "You loved him more than he deserved." Emily's chest heaved as she whispered, "I thought love meant sacrifice. But now, it felt like love had only left her empty-handed." That night, Emily opened her drawer and pulled out the letters again, hands trembling. She unfolded one, Daniel's handwriting spilling across the page. "I'll always show up for you." The words stabbed like knives. She ripped the letter in half, her sobs breaking into the silence. For the first time, she said the words aloud. He chose someone else. The realization echoed through her chest, final and devastating. She dropped the torn pieces onto the floor, watching them scatter like the promises he had broken. Emily dialed Daniel's number, her fingers trembling so violently she nearly dropped the phone. The call connected, and his voice, calm and casual, filled the line. "Hey, Her throat tightened, rage and heartbreak colliding. "Don't you dare call me that," she snapped, her voice breaking. Silence followed, then his low sigh. "What's wrong?" She laughed bitterly. "What's wrong? You promised to show up, Daniel. Instead, you showed me who you really are." Tears streamed down her face as her words turned sharp. "You lied to me. You chose her." Daniel's voice trembled faintly through the phone. "It's not what you think." Emily's heart clenched as she shouted, "Then tell me what it is." Her sobs came in short, violent bursts, but she refused to let them silence her anger. "Do you know how many nights I waited? How many times I believed your promises?" Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "You were supposed to love me enough to fight for us. Instead, you let me rot in silence while you laughed with someone else." His silence screamed louder than denial. Finally, Daniel whispered, "I didn't want to hurt you." Emily laughed bitterly, her voice sharp as broken glass. "You didn't want to hurt me. You destroyed me, Daniel." She clutched her chest, gasping for breath, anger pouring out of her like wildfire. "You wanted comfort. You wanted me waiting like a fool while you gave your best to someone else." His shallow excuses filled her ears, but she cut him off, voice breaking with finality. "Don't tell me you love me. You don't show up for people you love." Daniel raised his voice at last, frustration seeping through the line. "You don't understand my life here." Emily's hands shook, but her voice cut him like steel. "No, Daniel, you don't understand what love costs. I gave everything for us, and you gave me excuses." The room spun as her sobs caught in her throat, each word drenched in fury. "I begged for scraps of your time while she got your smiles. Don't tell me I don't understand." His silence stretched long, and in that silence, Emily heard the truth she had feared. He would never choose her. Her voice softened at last, broken but steady. "I loved you more than anyone, Daniel, but tonight you've shown me who you are." The silence that followed pressed like a weight on her chest. She whispered, "And I can't love that man anymore." Her hand trembled as she lowered the phone, ending the call. For a moment she stood frozen, staring at the darkened screen. Then she collapsed onto the bed, sobs tearing through her chest, knowing that everything she had fought for had ended with one call. The morning after, Emily's apartment was eerily quiet. She sat by the window, eyes swollen from a night of tears. Her phone lay untouched on the table, its silence heavier than words. She whispered, "It's really over." She thought of the years she had built around Daniel, the choices she had made believing he was worth it. Each sacrifice now felt hollow, like sand slipping through her fingers. Yet in the stillness, she felt the faintest flicker of strength, the first trace of herself beyond him. Sophia arrived with coffee, her eyes soft with concern. "You don't deserve this pain," she said, placing the cup into Emily's hands. Emily nodded weakly, her voice hoarse. "I know, but it hurts too much to breathe without him." Sophia squeezed her shoulder, grounding her. "One day, it won't. One day, this emptiness will be gone." Emily closed her eyes, holding on to those words like a lifeline. For the first time, she didn't argue. Later, Emily gathered Daniel's letters and photos into a box. Each piece carried memories, each one now sharp with betrayal. Her hands lingered on a picture of them smiling together, younger and full of hope. Her throat tightened as she whispered, "You were everything." She placed it in the box, sealing it shut. For the first time, she let herself imagine a life without waiting, a life where her worth wasn't tied to broken promises. Emily walked through the city streets that evening, the cool air brushing her skin. The world moved as if nothing had changed, cars rushing, people laughing, lights flickering. Yet to her, everything felt different. She whispered to herself, "I'm still here." The pain was raw, but beneath it, she sensed a small seed of resilience. For the first time in months, she wasn't waiting for his call. She was just breathing, just moving forward, step by trembling step. That night, Emily lay in bed, the silence no longer deafening but fragile. Her pillow still smelled faintly of salt from her tears, yet she breathed easier than the night before. She whispered softly, "I'll heal." The words were shaky, but they belonged to her. The ache in her chest remained, but it no longer owned her completely. She closed her eyes, letting sleep come without waiting for a message that would never arrive. Emily sat in the cafe where she and Daniel had first promised forever. The chatter around her blurred into white noise as she stirred her untouched coffee. She whispered, "We were supposed to last." Her mind replayed the memory of him reaching across this same table, swearing distance could never break them. Now the seat across from her was empty, and the silence was louder than any promise. She realized that love had ended not with a fight, but with absence. Walking home, Emily passed couples laughing, holding hands, sharing secrets under streetlights. She whispered, "That should have been us." But as she watched their smiles, she felt no jealousy, only the sting of knowing she had once believed in something just as beautiful. She pressed her coat tighter against her chest and thought, "Love doesn't vanish. It just changes into something you learn to carry." Each step echoed like a heartbeat, pulling her farther away from him. At home, Emily pulled Daniel's number up on her phone one last time. Her thumb hovered over the screen, heart pounding. She whispered, "One call could change everything." But then she set the phone down, realizing she no longer wanted answers that would only wound her again. Her silence for the first time was a choice. She exhaled shakily, pressing her hands to her face. She whispered, "No more waiting." The decision ached, but it was hers. Emily opened her window and let the cool night air wash over her. The city below pulsed with life, but inside her chest, a quiet stillness began to grow. She whispered to herself, "Find me again." Her reflection stared back in the glass, tired, wounded, but stronger. She traced her finger against the pain, not writing his name this time, but simply breathing. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was disappearing in his absence. She was here. She was enough. Lying in bed, Emily stared at the dark phone screen on her nightstand. She whispered Daniel's name once more, softer than a sigh. No reply came, only silence. She closed her eyes, and a single thought cut through the emptiness, and that was the last time his name ever lit up her phone. The words struck like a scar, final and unyielding. She let the silence cradle her, not as a prison, but as the beginning of release.